Into this climate stepped Peter Jackson, a cultured British West Indian who had won the heavyweight title in Australia. Jackson had admirers as far away as America, where abolitionist leader Frederick Douglass kept the fighter's picture in his study. Even the American press held Jackson in high regard.
The National Police Gazette, which was the leading sports paper of the late 19th century in the United States, was a fairly racist paper in many respects, but one of the things that it touted all the time was writing about black fighters and saying that they deserved this chance to compete for titles and so forth.
In 1888, Peter Jackson came to America in search of greater fame. After defeating white opponents and winning over white fans, he tried and failed to take on heavyweight champion John L. Sullivan.
I will not fight a Negro. I never have, and I never shall.
With no title at stake, Jackson settled for a match against Gentleman Jim Corbett in 1891.
The two guys had a lot of respect for each other. Corbett was on a trajectory to fight for a title. Jackson was thinking he was on a trajectory to possibly fight for a title.
An interesting thing about Jackson, some people felt that his style against Corbett was somewhat cautious. A lot of people felt that the public would not accept a super aggressive black fighter, especially a super aggressive black fighter beating up a white fighter.
After 61 rounds, the bout ended in a draw. Despite Jackson's showing, it was Corbett who would fight for the title and become champion. A frustrated Jackson went to England, where he gained a measure of fame by winning the British heavyweight title. In the years to come, he had difficulty finding matches and rarely fought. At the age of 40, Peter Jackson died in Australia, never having fought for the world heavyweight crown.
The official cause, I believe, was tuberculosis, but some say that he gave up on life and didn't care and led a rather debilitating existence after the refusal of all these fighters to give him a chance.
The arrival of Jackson in America in 1890, his third trip, caused a sensation, particularly in black American life. When he arrived in St. Louis by train, 500 black people crowded the depot to give him a rapturous welcome. In Louisville, Kentucky, he received uproarious applause from wherever Jackson went. He packed houses in Brooklyn, Boston, Chicago, Cincinnati, Washington, and so on, different racial mixes, some adoring, some venomous, but at all times engaged. In 1892, a group of young black men in Texas, led by Professor Micheal Jackson, set up a sporting outfit known as the Peter Jackson Club, where manly, corporeal pursuits would be availed to the black man. So popular was Jackson that he seemed to fuse black consciousness and compact class snobbery. Frederick Douglass, previously dismissive about the value of forcible black physicality, changed his mind after a visit to Haiti in 1889 and some reflections on the nation's revolutionary leader, Toussaint Louverture. The idea that a black man could be someone of intellect and imposing physicality all seemed to come together for him. And Jackson came to stand in for that ideal, fused as always in the world of boxing and American Jehovah's, in the figure of this rugged, adamantine individual. After this Haitian epiphany, Douglass kept a photo of Jackson in his office, stating, "Peter is doing a great deal with his fists to solve the Negro question." Indeed, so popular was Jackson, says Bob Peterson, that he was approached by some black leaders to lead a separate black state, in other words, kick out the Texans and make a state there. But that had already been tried with Liberia, and besides, Jackson wasn't interested. His ambition was to win the world heavyweight title, although it wasn't always so. After winning the Australian heavyweight title in 1886, he then defeated George Godfrey in California in 1888 to become world-colored heavyweight champion. He then challenged UK heavyweight champion Jem Smith, fighting his way across America before embarking for the showdown in 1889. Jackson won after Smith was disqualified for holding. But it wasn't a championship fight, so Smith retained the title. The next year in Bruges, Smith lost the title to Paddy Slavin, an Australian boxer who Jackson had taught. In 1892, Jackson beat Slavin, but that wasn't a championship fight either, so Jackson never won the British title. This pattern of white heavyweight boxing champions raising the color bar and refusing to put their titles on the line is the enduring theme of Jackson's career. Whether by straightforward race hatred or by evasion, a scroll of boxing champions refused to give Jackson an opportunity to contest for the title of World Heavyweight Champion. Sam Fitzpatrick, a trainer for both Peter Jackson and Jack Johnson, stated that of the two, Jackson was the superior boxer.